right, so our next media that we're going to be exploring is oil pastels. Oil pastels, there's really only kind of two things that we're looking into, which is mark making and blending. Oil pastels can be thought of as a more smeary crayon, if you want to see it that way. I am going to be using this particular neon set because I like neon colors. They are very pretty, but neon colors are not the only things that they come in. They come in quite regular colors as well. So whenever you first look at an oil pastel, it again does look very much like a crayon. These ones, being Crayola, are a little bit more crayon-like, but they tend to be round and they have a waxy feel to them. They feel very much like melted candles without being hot. So it has this very smearing ability. So whenever we're doing mark making, things that you want to try are, yes, your usual flicking. You also want to try making more broad marks using the end of your marker or even the side. If you can unpeel it, you can do that. You want to try making smooth lines and also filling in areas. Because if you color over one area for a while, you can see that it does start to eventually fill in all those little white gaps that you have. So again, white gaps, less white gaps, and all of that. You can try finding one that is a little more pointy to make a finer line. One thing that I have found about oil pastels is that it is somewhat difficult to get a sharp edge or a sharp point. This is not your material for fine lines. You can do it, but it does sometimes require you to grind off or even cut off part of the end of your little tool to actually do the thing that you want it to do. However, there are some very interesting ways to make marks that you might not think of. So right here, I'm just going to make a bunch of hatching marks, and I'm just going to build a couple layers of that in this blue color. And then I'm going to grab a different color, this green right here, and I'm going to continue making those dot marks, kind of like stippling in here. And it can start to look almost like stippled colors for paint. I'm going to grab one more green that's kind of in between these two, do a few more. And I got this almost algae covered water sort of look right here, just by making a bunch of dots that layer on top of one another, which can be a very fun texture to do. It's not exactly blending smoothly, but it does make a very cool little look. All right, let's talk about blending. So to blend these, it is very much a layering process. So then I'm going to take this green right here, and I'm just going to use very light pressure to get some down. And then I'm going to grab that blue that I had. And again, very light pressure, starting and overlapping my colors. I got to overlap. If I don't overlap, I'm not going to get anything done. And then I'm going to get this darker blue that is sliding apart. And I'm going to use just a little bit more pressure on the next pass, so you can see that these little lines start to vanish. These little white smears and white speckles go away. So one of the things that you got to be careful of with oil pastels is that, just like with like graphite pencils and things like that, the tooth of the paper, or we talked about it more in Prismas, the tooth of the paper, that is like the little grippy grooves of the paper that exist, eventually stop accepting more product. Like, you can't get it to stick forever. So if I come in here and I try and press and press and press and press and press and press and press, I will eventually start taking off product more than I am actually putting any down. So you can kind of see how I've got this little ridge of stuff going on. No more is going on. There is no way to get more color to stick on top. Like, doesn't really do anything. So you do got to be careful of that. However, once you do have a good layer on you can do one more really cool thing called sgraffito. And I have no idea if I spelled that correctly. Do not quote me on it. It might only have one F or one T, but hey, I am trying. Okay, so sgraffito is just a fancy, probably Italian word that means to scratch. And what you can do is you can take things like the corner of your ID, a fingernail, or even like the end of a pen or a pencil, and you can scratch through the pastel layer to get a sharp highlight, which is really cool. One last thing to mention, folks. You'll notice that I always marked with my Sharpie first on all of these. Oil pastels clog up this felt tip pen like nobody's business. You put this on top of here, this is no longer working, even if it's not dead. Just a word of warning. Sharpie first, then this. First, second. First, second. Got it? Got it? Got it? Good.